Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Virtual Village Hall. My name is Emma, and really lovely to be with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking this time out of your busy day to learn a little bit more about self-care, to raise your well-being and to build your resilience. So welcome to everybody. I would just like to set the tone of today's session that if you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments. And before I go into a little bit about introducing myself, if you want to introduce yourself by letting me know that you're tuning in and where you're tuning in from, that would be really great. And I will check in with that in a moment. So while you're letting me know who is here, I'll just introduce a little bit about myself. So my name is Emma. I'm a professional coach. I have a special interest in wellbeing and resilience coaching, which means that I work with my clients to offer them a holistic approach to well-being for the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. And that is all backed up by scientific research. And so I help them to discover health and happiness by reducing stress, addressing unhelpful thinking and limiting beliefs, helping them to develop a positive mindset, and creating a self-care plan to improve well-being and build resilience, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm also a positive psychology practitioner, which means that positive psychology is quite new. So psychology has obviously been around for a very long time. Positive psychology is about 20 years old. And there's loads of wonderful scientific research that's coming out at the moment, which is looking at what makes life worth living for us. So it is about looking at our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. It's about looking at strengths. It's about building on what's good in our life and looking at the conditions to really help us to thrive and to flourish. So when I say that, when I do a holistic wellbeing approach backed by scientific research, that's what I mean. I'm pulling on that positive psychology piece. I'm also a mental health first aider, and I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I think some of you were with my session yesterday where we looked at a moment of mindfulness. So that's a little bit about me. I just wanted to say hello to Irene. Good afternoon, Irene. Hi there from Andrea, and Annette is tuning in from Essex. So yes, good afternoon to all of you. So what are we? And hi from Ben as well. Hi, Ben. Okay, if anyone else is tuning in as we go, please do pop yourself in the comments so I can see who's here. So we've got Susie and Ben as well. So yeah, hello to everyone. All right, really lovely to have you with us in this session today. So what are we going to be covering? So we are, as you know, this is the Mindspace week that the Royal Voluntary Service has put together. And Mindspace week is a week-long program of fantastic sessions that are going to help you to raise your well-being, look after your mental well-being. And it's to mark World Mental Health Day, which was on Sunday. So the topics that are taking place this week are all about the NHS 5 steps to mental well-being. And step number 1 is giving to others. Now, if you are a volunteer with the Royal Voluntary Service, you will know very well how to give to others, and hopefully you will be well aware of the benefits that are associated with that. However, what we're going to do for this session is to flip the giving to others on its head, and we're going to be making this workshop all about you. How can you give to yourself? So we will look at the building blocks of resilience and well-being, and we'll also look at why self-care should be a priority in your lives and not the luxury that it just seems to be for a lot of my clients. Hopefully it's not a luxury for you, but it is for a lot of the clients that I work with. You're also going to have the chance to explore what self-care actually means to you. And then you're going to be able to create a self-care plan that is as unique as you are. And that's really important because during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was an absolute wealth of information about self-care and looking after our mental well-being and our physical well-being and basically looking after ourselves because we're all going through a really, really difficult time. But what I found during that period, which was really interesting for me, is that there was so much information, and a lot of my clients know what they should be doing to look after their physical and mental well-being, but they just don't do it because we're busy. We've got a whole bunch of other priorities that we have to juggle, and often our own self-care gets put to the bottom of the pile. And what we're going to be talking about today is bringing it to the top of that pile, or occasionally anyway, not all the time, and creating a self-care plan that is unique to you. Because this is the thing, a lot of the information during the COVID-19 pandemic was about physical self-care. So, you know, going for walks, making sure that you have your exercise, getting out in nature. These are all physical well-being strategies, which is wonderful and really, really important. However, there wasn't really a huge amount about mental well-being, or about emotional well-being, actually, or spiritual well-being. And these are the 4 aspects of what it means to be human, in my opinion, anyway. So it's really important that we look after all of those 4 aspects and not just physical well-being. And the other thing to say about well-being is that what I would choose for my own well-being may well be different to what you would choose, or your friend or your family members would choose. So it's really important to understand what well-being means to you, and then to create your own well-being strategy that is as unique as you are. And so attached to this session today, there is a workbook. I think Victoria is going to add in the link to that workbook. So you can download that workbook for yourself. If you don't already have it, that's absolutely fine. You might just want a pen and a piece of paper. But if you do have the opportunity to download that workbook and work through it, then that will help you to create a really unique self-care plan for you. Finally, we're going to create this self-care plan with ideas that can take as little as 5 minutes and up to a whole day. And you might be thinking, I can't look after myself for a whole day. But this is something I do with my clients, which is I say, right, design your ideal day. What does your ideal day actually look like? Who would be part of your ideal day? What would you be doing in your ideal day? And finally, when they've created this ideal day and got over the shock of actually having the opportunity to create it, I then ask them to set a date for when they're going to live this ideal day. So I really recommend that you give that a go if it speaks to you. And finally, you get the opportunity to incorporate your self-care plan into your daily routine, and you can decide what you're going to do and when. And it can be, if a whole day doesn't suit you, and it doesn't for a lot of my clients, then you could just say, right, do you know what? I'm going to take 3 minutes to do some deep breathing and just to be still while I'm waiting for the kettle to boil to make a cup of tea. That's self-care. Doesn't take all day, doesn't even take 5 minutes. So you can design your self-care plan how you would like it to look. All right, so Victoria, could we show the first diagram, please? And while you do that, thank you. I'm going to say hello to Samantha from Sidcup, hi to Karen from Scotland, and Victoria's put in the comments the link where you can download the workbook that accompanies this session. All right, so instead of listening to me prattle on for an hour, I thought just a couple of little diagrams might be helpful, because this is how I understand resilience and well-being to actually work. So firstly, what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. Now, obviously, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we all had our own types of difficulties, and they went on for a really, really long time. And the things that we would usually turn to put a self-care plan in place and to reduce our stress, we didn't have access to those things in the same way that we did before. And we were bombarded by negativity from the news. So that impacted on our mindset. So what I was seeing with my clients is that not only was the COVID-19 pandemic incredibly stressful, the news that we were receiving on a daily basis was highly negative and scary, which was impacting our mindset. And what we would usually do to manage that stress and to do those self-care activities was severely restricted. So what I was seeing was a wealth of really stressed out clients, and it's completely understandable. So yeah, our well-being had been dramatically impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And interestingly, what I'm seeing now is that people are coming out of that and their well-being is improving, but it's actually quite slow. And with a lot of my clients, we've entered into this new thing. This is a new word that's come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is called languishing, which is like, you're not really in a place of well-being, but it's not as bad as it was. And it's all just not great. However, there are steps that we can take, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So just to summarize, if you can reduce your stress, which you absolutely can through self-care, if you can maintain a positive mindset, which you absolutely can with self-care because it gives you something else to think about, and if you prioritize your self-care, those three together all combine to improve our well-being. And if we can improve our well-being, we automatically improve our resilience. So resilience that is something that comes from improved well-being. And again, we're going to be looking at a fully rounded self-care plan that includes the mind, body, heart and soul, and all those things together. So these three things at the bottom of this diagram here, combined with a self-care plan that encompasses all aspects of what it means to be human, they all work together to rebuild our resilience. Okay, thank you, Victoria. Could you move on to slide number 2? Okay, while we're waiting for this, just want to say hello to Christine from somewhere that I can't pronounce, Alloa maybe, in Scotland. And Andrea's downloaded the workbook, so thank you for that. For those of you who've just joined in, please do feel free to pop anything in the comments, any questions, anything that you want to ask. And you can download the workbook as well. The link to that is in the comments. All right, so we're now on to slide 2. So I don't know if you can actually see this. Hi, Yvonne. Welcome, welcome. All right, this is the mental health first aider stress container. And I'm going to very quickly describe what's going on in this stress container. I think this is really helpful to understand and make sense of stress, because stress is a bit of a concept which is quite difficult to get your arms around. You might understand what is causing stress, but how do you actually manage that? And how do you recognize when it's here? So this stress container model is by Mental Health First Aid England. For those of you who have just joined, I'm a mental health first aider. So I use this model a lot with my clients, and it helps us to just understand what's going on with stress. So in the middle, you have got that upside down green triangle, and this is called your stress container. And some of us have a really small triangle, which means that it only takes a few things to really stress us out. And it means that we're quite vulnerable to stress. And what I noticed over the COVID-19 pandemic is that those clients who I thought had a very large stress container, which means that they could cope with a lot of stress before they actually exhibited signs of stress, over that period of time, our stress container got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I certainly noticed this was the case with me, in that I like to think that I have quite a large stress container, but throughout the repeated lockdowns, especially when a lot of that included homeschooling, my stress container got smaller and smaller, and I saw that with my clients as well. So that green triangle in the middle is your stress container. The size of it depends, shows how vulnerable you are to stress. And this is why some people can just breeze through life and not really be affected by stressors. And others of us might be thinking, why are they not stressed by this? Why are they not affected by these things? That's because they've got a really big stress container. Where others of us, it doesn't take a lot to get stressed, and that's because we've got a small stress container. So above that triangle, we've got those 3 little arrows, and this is the stress that flows into the container. Now, something to look at is that we all have a choice about the stresses that we allow into the container. Sometimes these things happen and we have to put up with them. But there are things that we actually don't have to put up with, and we might choose to stress about them anyway. So it could be a good question to ask yourself about what you allow into your stress container and what you can actually stop from going into your stress container. And there may well be things that you can say, actually, no, I'm not going to allow that anymore. Or if I have to put up with it, then I'm not going to stress about it in the same way. The thing to notice about this stress container is that when it gets full, so your stress reaches to the top of the triangle and the stress starts to overflow, that's when you develop emotional snapping points. And these emotional snapping points are unique to all of us, but they could include things like getting really irritable, not being able to sleep, getting tension in your neck and your shoulders, headaches, could be upset stomachs. There's a whole array of emotional snapping points, and how they show up for you will be unique to you. So it can be helpful to understand what your emotional snapping points are likely to be. It's not necessarily shouting and crying. There will be things that show up for you before you get to that stage. So it can be quite an interesting exercise to explore what that might be. Okay, at the bottom of the stress container, there's a little tap and there's a little arrow that comes out to the side. So there are helpful coping strategies to open the tap on the stress container and to let the stress out. And those helpful coping strategies are self-care. So back in the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of talk about how we can look after ourselves, and it was all about self-care, predominantly physical self-care, but there are other types of self-care. And the thing to mention here is self-care is the key. So while reducing stress is a really fantastic idea, and while trying to maintain a positive mindset is really, really helpful, and when I work with my clients, we look at all of this together and how they can look after themselves. Self-care is the key to all of this. So if you think, oh, I don't really understand my mindset, or I can't really go there, or I don't want to go there, that's okay. Self-care is the key. If you're looking at the stress container and thinking, I don't know how to stop stuff flowing into the container, or I don't know how to stop stressing about it, and there's no control over the size of the stress container, that's okay, because self-care is the key. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The other thing we notice at the bottom of this stress container is that you can develop unhelpful coping strategies. And this is where I call these the stress blinkers, which is where you just put the blinkers on, you go, right, I'm just going to do what I need to do to get through this stressful time. I was certainly like this during the pandemic, especially when I had the deep joy of homeschooling my 7-year-old, which was incredibly difficult. So those unhelpful coping strategies for me were, or the stress blinkers, which is like, oh, I'm just going to get through this, involved me adopting unhelpful coping strategies. And this actually blocks the stress container and it stops the stress from flowing out, and it actually causes even more stress. So the way I got through that, and I'm just sharing this with you because this is what happens when we adopt the stress blinkers. The way I got through the homeschooling is by eating my own body weight in chocolate biscuits, which is not ideal. And then the sugar rush and the sugar crash that came from eating all of that unhealthy food actually created a different level of stress, actually made me super irritable, and it wasn't helping. And it was only after like day 3 or 4 of the homeschooling where I thought fueling homeschooling with chocolate biscuits is probably not ideal. And this is a unhelpful coping strategy. What I actually need to do is for my son and I to go for a walk in the woods and to kind of spend a bit of time in nature. And that is a helpful coping strategy. So hopefully that kind of explains the stress container, and it gives you some strategies to kind of make sense of the stress in your life and what you can actually do about it, which is the main thing. All right, so thank you for those slides, Victoria. If we could just switch the slides off for a minute, and I'm going to help you to talk through how you can create your own self-care strategy. So hopefully by now you've seen self-care is the key. It's a great way to manage stress. It's a great way to improve our well-being. And moreover, it gives us the resilience that we need to be able to cope with whatever life has in store for us. Okay, so before I dive into that book, that bit, I'm really encouraged to see that lots of people have downloaded the workbook, which is in the links that Victoria's put in the comments. So we've got Christine tuning in from Dunstable. We've got Anna Maria from Yorkshire. We've got Keza from Nottingham. And Anna Maria says, does this apply to anxiety too? Okay, so with my mental health first aider hat on, stress is the underlying root cause for all mental health issues. Now, with my mental health first aider hat on, anxiety is a mental health issue. We all experience anxiety to some degree or another. Anxiety kind of exists on a spectrum. So anxiety can be quite subtle, where we can occasionally think, oh, and then it passes. And I think that's quite normal. Most people experience that from time to time. And then anxiety can move up the spectrum, where it becomes actually really quite debilitating and we live our lives in a state of anxiety. And it's really important to notice that stress is the underlying root cause of anxiety. So to answer your question, Anna Maria, I would say yes. If you can manage your stress and you can try and maintain a positive mindset, if only by practicing self-care, so it gives you something else to think about, you will reduce your level of stress. You will increase your level of well-being. And in an ideal world, that will also help you to reduce anxiety. So I hope that answers your question. Pauline says, this is needed right now. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's needed right now, Pauline. And while I work with my clients on a lot of different things, the key to unlocking all of this is self-care, which is why I've been so keen to run through this today. So let's get into it. So what does self-care actually mean to you? All right. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. If you want to share in the comments, that's amazing. Sharing is fantastic because it gives other people ideas. And while it might be unique to you, somebody else might think, oh, that's a great idea. I would really love to try that. So if you do want to share your answers to these questions, please do so. That would be great. And I've got a whole range of questions which I will ask you in a moment. So stand by, fingers at the ready. Okay, so when I ask my clients, what does self-care mean to you? They often go, don't know. And that's really, really super common. So it's quite a difficult question to answer. I mean, self-care is a bit of a concept thing. Like, what is that? What is that anyway? So let me ask you these questions and you can help to make sense of it. So I ask a variety of questions because I believe they all open a slightly different door on the answer. And this means that it can help you to create a really personalized and varied, incorporating your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul, and unique self-care plan for you. So it's really important that we personalize our wellbeing strategy to the things that suit us best. So like I think I said before, what I would choose might not be what you would choose. So what you would choose is perfect for you. So if I ask you these questions and you're thinking, oh, I don't really know an answer to that one, that's okay. You can just ponder on it. All these questions are in your workbook. So you can just ponder on these questions and over time, the answers will bubble up to the surface. And if you just set the intention, okay, this week I'm going to ask myself, what brings me joy? If you don't immediately know the answer, that is, again, really super common. So you can just ponder on that for a week or a few days, whatever you want, an hour, whatever you like, and just see what bubbles up to the surface. And often if you just sit quietly and think, right, what does actually bring me joy? An answer will come to you. Okay, so let's kick off. Before I ask these questions, Annette says that she started going to the gym to help with anxiety, which is amazing. So physical exercise is one of the main meta strategies. There are 3 main meta strategies. I'm drawing on positive psychology now. 3 main meta strategies which help our well-being. Number 1 is mindfulness, which is what we did yesterday. So if you didn't catch the moment of mindfulness session yesterday, I think you can replay it on the Facebook group. Number 2, physical exercise is a meta strategy as well. And there's been huge amounts of research results to show how it really helps us with self-care. It really helps with overcoming anxiety and depression. And number 3 is gratitude. So having an attitude of gratitude, and we're actually going to cover that on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So by these 3 main meta strategies are proven by positive psychology research. And a meta strategy means that the effects that we get from it far outweigh the time and effort that we put into it. So the effects that you get from exercise and physical activity far outweigh the time and effort that you put into it. So those 3 meta strategies are great. So Annette's doing one of them by going to the gym. Lisa, positive self-talk, amazing. That's a really good way of improving your mindset, which we're not going to be talking about today specifically, but positive self-talk, fantastic. Annette says, making sure you look after your own mental health by doing self-care. Absolutely, that's what we're going to do today. And Lisa says, it's hard to have motivation if you're down, which is absolutely true, Lisa. But by practicing these self-care activities, by looking after yourself, giving yourself what you need, which very often in this society, we're kind of taught that we don't do that. But if we can do that and overcome the barriers to doing it, can really help to put you in a really good frame of mind, reduce your level of stress, and then therefore increase your well-being. Okay. And then Keza says, connection with others helps you. Yeah, absolutely. That is, again, number 2, I think, of the NHS 5 steps to mental well-being. So all fantastic ideas. Thanks, guys. Right. So the questions that are in your workbook and the questions I'm going to ask you now are, what brings you joy? What brings you joy? What makes you really happy? If you want to share any of the ideas in the comments, please do so. Okay, another one is, what would be fun for you? When you're having fun, what are you doing? Okay, another question to ask is, what do you look forward to? So if you're thinking about something in the future and you're getting excited about that, what is it that you look forward to? Okay, another one is, what makes you laugh? So during the COVID-19 pandemic, there wasn't a lot of laughter. So what makes you laugh? I've just realised that something that makes me laugh is there's a company called Holy Flaps, and they do very, very rude mugs and plates and cards with very rude words on them. But it really makes me laugh out loud. So when I'm having a down day, we go and have a look at those very rude mugs and plates and cards with very rude words on. If you're offended by swear words, I would suggest that you don't look at this, but really makes me laugh, which is a bit embarrassing to share with you, but it does. Okay, another question to ask yourself is, where do you feel flow? Now, flow is a specific state which is researched extensively by positive psychology researchers, where you feel like you are doing something, you are in this state of flow, and this is where you forget that time passes. You're so engrossed in what you're doing, you're really enjoying it, there's a little bit of challenge, you're getting immediate feedback from it, and you're in this state of flow where you kind of forget to eat, you forget to go to the toilet, you forget to look at your phone. Oh my goodness, how wonderful is that? And some people find some states of flow can be art. Irene says art, brilliant. And some people find a state of flow when they're practicing yoga. Lisa says yoga. Some people find a state of flow when they're reading even. They just forget that time passes. Okay, so these are all great questions. So I'm just going to read out some of the comments so we can all share on everybody's wisdom. Okay, where did I get to? So Anna Maria says, spending time with your 3-year-old grandson. Absolutely. So I bet there's a lot of love and laughter and connection with your grandson, Anna Maria. Lisa says your cat Georgie. Yeah, lots of research that pets are amazing for our well-being. So yeah, having a nice little cuddle with your cat, lovely thing to do. Anna Maria says taking up doodling. Yeah, mindful doodling. That can be a real source of being in flow as well. It gives you great joy. Wonderful. Keza says she looks forward to events and holidays. Pauline says being away with no responsibility. Lovely, Pauline. Reading and walking. Irene says walking with dogs in the country. So wow, so that is including 3 things there, Irene. So that is physical activity in your walking, pets, which are proven to improve our mental well-being, and being in the countryside, so being in nature. Lovely, lovely trio of self-care there. Andrea says talking with my daughter, spending time with her, playing with a new puppy, doing craft work. I like to plan nice things to look forward to, a theatre trip and a meal with friends. Lovely. Wonderful ideas of self-care. It sounds like you guys are already doing it. You don't need me. You're doing it. That's brilliant. Pauline says peace of mind. Lisa says online friends listening to music. Yeah, lots of research around the positive effects of music. Keza says children, her dog, comedy. Yeah, Keza, I think you might like Holy Flaps. Pauline says comedy and people watching. Lisa says yoga. Irene says art. Andrea says I feel flow when I'm doing agility with my dog, creating a piece of art, or I'm writing a feature and it's all just literally flowing out of me. Yeah, wonderful. Andrea, you should be running this session. You know what you're doing. This is great. Okay, so we've got Lisa reading a book for book club. Oh, Anna Maria says watching live crime trials in America. She gets so into it, she forgets the time of day. Brilliant. Valerie says her flow is in the garden. Pauline says unexpectedly achieving something that's not on your to-do list. Wonderful. Vicky says being out in the garden. These are all fabulous ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. This is great. Okay, so a few more questions that you might want to ask yourself. Again, these are all in the workbook. And yeah, we've talked a lot today about physical activity, being out for walks, being out in nature, going out for walks with your dog, all of these things. And Victoria is reminding us that Dr. Zoe Williams will be running a session about the power of physical activity to support mental health and well-being. And that is tomorrow at 10 a.m. So yeah, like I said, physical activity is one of the 3 meta strategies, which means that the benefits far outweigh the time and the effort that you put into it. Okay. All right. So another few questions is, what do you get excited about? So what is exciting for you? And sometimes exciting doesn't need to be running around going, wow, this is amazing. It could just be a moment where you go, oh, that's exciting. So yeah, what do you get excited about? Another question to Lisa says chocolate. Yeah, I get excited about chocolate too, Lisa. Yeah, chocolate biscuits particularly. Not always ideal, but you know, chocolate's exciting. So another question to ask is, what brings you peace? And Marie Jane says yoga. Yoga brings peace. Lisa says just sitting and staring in a good way, but also an unmotivated way. Oh, that's wonderful, Lisa. That sounds a little bit like mindfulness, and that can absolutely bring us peace. Okay, another question to ask yourself is, what makes your body feel good? So physical exercise might be something, because the body is designed to move. That doesn't mean spending hours in the gym. It could just be, yeah, just walking, yoga, stretching, deep breathing. These might make your body feel good. And the last question to ask yourself, and again, all of these questions are in the workbook, is how would you indulge or treat yourself? That might be chocolate, it might be something else. So something that my clients often tell me is, in fact, Keza says a nice bath. Absolutely, a lovely bath might be a wonderful way to treat yourself. A lot of clients say to me, I don't have time for a bath right now. And that's true. So it could be something else. It could be something really small, like sitting, staring out of the window while you enjoy a nice cup of tea. Not just having a cup of tea, which is aside to doing something else, but, you know, really enjoying in that cup of tea, really enjoying in the ritual of making a cup of tea. That might be a nice way to treat yourself. Okay, so we've had some absolutely amazing suggestions. I'm just going to read out. So Pauline says something that she gets excited about, I think it is, or something that she looks forward to, is going on the bus to the market and having no agenda. Oh yeah, lovely. A bit of mindless shopping, or shopping without an agenda. How lovely. Annette says meditation brings her peace. Vicky says the same thing. Pauline says trying to work out to find peaceful moments. Absolutely. Anna Maria says she has osteoarthritis, so painkillers make her body work. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we do need a little bit of help to make our body work. Joe says mindful movement and stretching. Irene says walking on the beach and deep breathing. Absolutely, Irene. I live near the beach myself, and it is absolutely my happy place. And if I can get my toes in the sea, then, you know, it's a good day. Pauline says, oh, a lovely little thing just to kind of enjoy a nice new shower gel on a massage bath sponge. Wonderful. That is a brilliant example of finding the joy in the little things. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to necessarily cost loads of money. Just be a little thing would be great. Okay, Anna Maria says doing online jigsaws. Pauline says going to see James Bond at the cinema next week. Pure indulgence. That sounds like a lovely way to treat yourself. Hannah says doing couch to 5K. Just get the app, do what you're told. I'd never thought I'd run. Massive kudos to you, Hannah, because I look at the app and go, no. So amazing that you've actually done it, couch to 5K. Lisa says she brought a purple pen. That is amazing. I think that's wonderful. Joy in the little things. Doesn't have to be huge. And yeah, sometimes color can have, we've talked about music, we've talked about pets, we've talked about being out in nature. What else did we talk about? Finding your flow. Sometimes color can bring us huge joy. If you're that way inclined, that can be a real thing for you. And that doesn't mean that you have to be an amazing artist. Just a little bit of color, like Lisa says, just a purple pen. That's exciting. Okay. Wonderful ideas, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. That's all brilliant. Okay, Victoria, could we go on to slide 3 of the slide deck, please? Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so in your workbooks, and you don't necessarily need your workbook to do this, you might just need a bit of pen and a bit of paper and a pen, or a purple pen. There, in your workbooks, though, there is an empty grid. So this is how you design your own unique self-care plan. So in your workbook, there's an empty grid. If you don't have your workbook, you can just jot down a few things. You can pop them in the comments and come back to them later if you like. So here we've got your own unique self-care plan. And this is where what you put in your plan will probably be different to me, probably be different to any significant other or friend that you may have. So this is about making it unique to you. So across the top, you'll see that we have 4 columns: the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. And for me, this is what it means to be a human being. So like I said, a lot of the advice over the lockdown was all about the body, what we can do to improve our physical well-being. Boris let us out for our 1 walk a day. And this was all about physical well-being, which absolutely is important. And as I've said, it's one of the 3 meta strategies. However, there's a bit more to it than that. And this is where incorporating the other 3 columns of the mind, the heart, and the soul, they are all equally important. And all of them combine to improve our mental well-being. So even if you're focusing on physical well-being, that improves our mental well-being. Even if you're focusing on emotional well-being, that improves our mental well-being. So all of these together are all amazing, is what I'm trying to say. Right, so then we look at the columns, the ones that are going from left to right. Sorry, not columns, rows. Going from left to right. And we've got in the first row, things that take us 5 to 10 minutes. So Lisa's, I brought a purple pen. That might be in, takes 5 to 10 minutes to look at my purple pen or write with my purple pen. It brings me a lot of joy, and it might go into the heart column, for example. Other things that we've got 5 to 10 minutes are taking a mindful moment. So a bit of deep breathing while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, enjoying a tea or a coffee while you're looking out of the window, like really enjoying it, not just having it to the side of something else that you're doing. Something that takes 5 to 10 minutes for the body is doing some stretches, doing some slow, deep breathing, making yourself a healthy snack, not your own body weight in chocolate biscuits, but something healthy. For something that takes 5 to 10 minutes for the heart is doing a small act of kindness for somebody else, which you guys probably already do, or doing a big act of kindness when you're volunteering. Maybe listening to some music. A lot of my clients, I ask them to create an uplifting playlist. So when they're having a down day or they're particularly stressed, some of them got a really active playlist, which makes them get up and dance. Some of them got really relaxing playlist that helps them just kind of wind down for a minute. Some of them have got a really motivating playlist. So you might have different playlists, music playlists for your mood. That can be really helpful. Something that takes 5 to 10 minutes is practicing gratitude. So we're going to be doing a bit more of that on Thursday at 11 a.m. Hopefully you'll be able to join me for that one. Or it could be just going outside, putting your feet on the grass, which might be a bit chilly to do this time of year, or feet on the sand if you live by the sea. But that can be really grounding. It can be really wonderful for the soul. And then practicing some affirmations. So I am whole, I am complete, I am at peace. Whatever affirmation comes to you and resonates with you is perfect. Okay, then we have some other suggestions here. So for things that we could do in 30 minutes, so maybe reading a book, maybe doing a bit more of a formal meditation, taking a short walk. My own personal favorite is taking a nap, cooking a healthy meal, maybe having a chat with a friend or a family member, maybe having some time alone, maybe doing some singing, maybe singing along to your playlist. That might take a little bit longer than 5 minutes. Then we've got on row number 3, we've got things that take between 1 and 2 hours. So this could be learning a new skill or practicing a hobby, and this might be where you find your sense of flow. It could be yoga or Tai Chi, or taking an exercise class, or taking part in your favorite sport. It could be going for a longer walk. It could be watching some comedy or attending a concert, or maybe volunteering, which is what you guys are already doing. And there's huge benefits about giving to others, volunteering. Lots of positive psychology research into the benefits of what giving to others actually gives you. So even though you're giving to others, you are actually getting a benefit for yourself. So it's a good thing to do. Okay, then there's time in nature, maybe watching the sunset, setting life goals, having some meaning and some purpose, being part of something that's bigger than yourself and working on that can be really beneficial for the soul. And then the last one there, the last row, is something that you can do over a whole day. And I think I've already mentioned it. So living your ideal day, having a day with no screens. So I know it's slightly ironic that we're doing this through Facebook and you're probably on your phone or a device or your laptop, but having a day with no screens and ideally spending that day in nature is like really wonderful for the soul. Getting a good night's sleep if you can, that's really fantastic for the body. So it's not a whole day, but hopefully a whole night, slightly longer than you might usually do. A spa day, this is my personal favorite, and maybe attending a workshop or a special class to learn a new skill. So these are all ideas that you can put in your own unique self-care plan. You've already shared some ideas with me, which is great. And some more ideas that we've had coming out are a little poem, reading some poetry. That's a lovely idea. Thanks for that, Pauline. Anna Maria says she's got an anxiety playlist on Spotify. So hopefully something to reduce your level of anxiety, some music to help you to reduce that anxiety. And Pauline says, yeah, time alone can be really beneficial. Absolutely. So these are all ideas that you can add into your own unique self-care plan. Like I said, an empty grid is in your workbook, or you can just jot this down on a piece of paper. It's got your 4 columns, which are really important, and it's got things that you can do in a short amount of time. So if any of you are sitting there thinking, I just don't have the time for self-care, I want to challenge you and say we all have time for 5 minutes to look after ourselves in our day. So even if you start out with something that takes 5 minutes, you can always work up to something that takes a little bit longer. Now, there are barriers to self-care, and I'm not going to go into that now, but the biggest barriers that I see to self-care are time. I don't have time for self-care, and I challenge you to say that, yes, you do. We all have 5 minutes where we can practice a little bit of mindfulness, or do some deep breathing, or a quick walk around the block. We can all spare 5 minutes for ourselves once a day. Other barriers to self-care are guilt. So you don't deserve to put yourself first. And this is where, if you feel this way, I really suggest that you start with doing 5 minutes a day and seeing how you feel. And my big answer to this is we all have time for 5 minutes a day. We all need to take responsibility for putting ourselves first. It helps, as we said before, it helps to reduce our stress. It helps to change our mindset, helps to improve our well-being, helps to give us the resilience that we need. So there's massive benefits to doing this. And if you do feel guilty, then what I would say is sometimes I'm going to use the analogy of a mobile phone. So most of us have got a mobile phone, and some of our phones will tell us when we're going into low power mode. And generally we think, oh, we really must plug my phone in to recharge it. So we wouldn't let our phones run out of power. Or if it looks like they're going to run out of power, we might have a little bit of a panic and think, oh, I really must recharge this. Or if they do run out of power, one of the first things that we do is to recharge it. So we don't let our phones run out of power, but we do this to ourselves all the time. So if you're feeling guilty, just think, right, I wouldn't let my phone run out of power. I wouldn't let my laptop or my device or whatever it is that you're using to watch this session, I wouldn't let that run out of power. So I'm not going to let myself run out of power. I'm going to be using self-care activities so I can recharge my own batteries. Okay, and Pauline says, yes, guilt kicks in fast, even in those moments of relaxing. Absolutely. We live in a society where we are told not to put ourselves first. But my big challenge to this is, like, if you don't do it, no one else will do it for you. And that way danger lies. So I would really encourage you to start off small and just say, right, I'm not going to let my phone run out of power. I'm not going to let myself run out of power. Self-care is a priority and it is not a luxury. For those people who I see who treat self-care as a luxury and they don't practice it enough, they struggle with stress. They struggle with unhelpful thinking and a very unhelpful mindset. They struggle with poor well-being. And at the very far end of that scale, they struggle with mental health challenges. So self-care is essential. Self-care is the key to preventing all of those things. Okay, I will get off my soapbox now and say thank you very much to Victoria for that slide. If you could bring that slide down, I'm just going to wrap up for the last few minutes and just say, hope this has been a really helpful session. Thank you to everybody for all of your suggestions. That really helps, because sometimes when you think, oh, this is a really good thing for me, it's really helpful for other people as well. If you feel like you want to commit to doing some self-care, maybe spending 5 minutes a day to practice self-care for yourself. So you're going to recharge your batteries. You're not going to let yourself run out of power, because if you don't plug yourself in and recharge, then no one else is going to do it for you. And if you don't plug yourself and recharge, then you're not going to work very well. So you are going to treat self-care as recharging your batteries and doing a nourishing activity, because you deserve it. And we all have 5 minutes to do that in our lives. So if you want to commit to something and you want to share that in the comments, then please do so. But while you're typing in your comments, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to share some of this with you today. I do get on my soapbox a bit, so I hope I haven't been too lectury, but please do download the workbook and please do have a look at it and think, you know what, I deserve this. There's lots and lots of research to show us that it's a really good thing to do, and you absolutely do deserve it. So in your workbook, there are some questions. What do you want to commit to? And try and create your self-care plan to include the mind, the body, and the heart and the soul at all of those different timescales, if you can. If you can't sit down and do it in one go, that's absolutely fine. Just fill in what you can do, and that is perfect. And if you do want to make a commitment, then please do write down when you're going to do it. So something that I talked about in a session yesterday was, one of my self-care activities is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is absolutely a lifesaver for me. And one of the things they say is it's really useful to do first thing in the morning. Well, I can't do that because I've got 2 young children and they're usually screaming by the time I get up. So mindfulness first thing doesn't help me, but I do it when they go to school. So when I come back from dropping them off at school, I do 10 minutes of mindfulness. And then I try and do a little bit before I pick them up as well. So yeah, working out what you want to do and how you're going to work that into your routine and when is going to be a good time for you to practice mindfulness. It's a really good thing to do. So, all right, I'm just going to have a quick read through the comments and make sure I've covered everything. Thank you all so much for your kind words. It's been really lovely to work with you today. What else have you said? Okay, Lisa says she's had CBT and counselling for phobic anxiety, but no one ever said self-care. Self-care is the key. If we remember that mental health first aid diagram with the stress container, the upside down green triangle, the bit that works, the bit that lets the stress out at the bottom is self-care. Self-care is the key. So yeah, really hope that you will take on board what I've covered today, create that self-care plan that is unique to you, and decide what you're going to commit to, and decide when you're going to include it in your day. And yeah, use the workbook to your advantage. So thank you so much for everybody for your time today. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for everything that you've added into the session. Your participation is really appreciated, and it's been really lovely to be here today. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. I hope to see you on Thursday at 11 for a bit of gratitude.